Okay, so in the last video, we successfully connected the API connector to the OpenAI API. And where we left off, we had a lot of these hard-coded examples to get the API connector working. What we're going to want to do is make these dynamic, and how we do that is we are going to use the greater than, less than symbols, which will encapsulate the part that we want to make dynamic. So this may be a bit advanced for this tutorial, but we're going to do it this way because this is how we're going to formulate that list of chat history from OpenAI. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this whole section here in between the square brackets. So effectively everything inside the array, and we're going to make a key called prompt. And as soon as I put that closing symbol over there, you'll see that prompt comes up as a key. And what we're going to want to do is we want to uncheck private. This means that we'll be able to see it in the properties editor on the design side, or at least when we're in the workflows, we'll be able to see this value and we'll be able to change it. If private is checked, it'll be hidden on the back end and you won't be able to access that. So we're going to want to put our own prompts in, so we're going to need to have this available. Since I've changed this now, the API connector has recognized I've made some changes, so it would like you to reinitialize the call. So we're going to have to redo that. But in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the user prompt from over here. Remember, over here, I'm under the guides section in the documentation. So I'll copy that and I'll move that across. And this technically should work because we have our curly braces, which would be inside the square brackets over here. So if I click initialize call, we get a response here saying that the Dodgers won, and that is the answer to this question over here. So API call is working again. What we're going to do now is we're going to go into the data side and we're going to create our chats and our chat history basically, and that's going to be made up of a lot of chats. So I'll use a data type here as a default when you create the app. So we're going to create a new one called chat. Create that, and I'm going to create a few fields here and it'll make sense at the end, but I'm going to start with create a new field called text, of type text, and I'm going to create another one which is more for functionality. I'm going to create a JSON object, but it's effectively text, the way we're going to type it out. And what we're going to do is also tell it who is writing or responding. And as you'll remember from earlier, we have those three roles from ChatGPT. So we would create a new field called GPT role. And we could put these as a text and type them in manually, but that does open itself to human error and spelling mistakes or typos. So there's a nice option amongst the data types, and that's one called option sets. Option sets lets you create more permanent fields, if you will, that are often useful when creating menus or things that are kind of hard-coded that you're not really going to be changing a lot. So in this case, I'm going to create a new one called GPT role. And there it is there. Its default field is display, which is going to be what you're calling it. So we have the three, which were system, user was the other one, and the third one was assistant. Now we have these three that are available to us under the option set name GPT role. We'll go back to data types, and I'm going to create this field now called GPT role. I'm going to call it the same thing, and this is of type GPT role. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see it here. And the options available to us, if I click this drop down, system, user assistant, they're all there, so we can use these at a later stage without any human error coming into play. Now we get to the part where we get to start doing workflows. So this whole app is going to run off the ask button, and it's going to be triggered by this over here. So since no workflows exist at the moment, we're going to create our first one by saying add workflow. And when this button is clicked, what we're going to want to do is we want to enter into the system what our question is. So we're going to create a new thing, and that is going to be of type chat. We can say that the GPT role is going to be us, the user. You see how easy that was? I could just select it from here instead of having to type it. We're going to say the text is going to be the input. So it's where we are asking the question, input, ask the questions, value. And then comes the JSON. This is what's going to help us string together the history of the conversation. So in this case, I'm just going to take this example from over here. We did it before in our API connector. You can see I've chosen this one because it says user. So we are creating the users chat at the moment. When you click in these boxes, you'll see it says click. If you click that, it gives you dynamic options. But if you just want to paste text, what you want to do is go just after it, and you can paste it in there. If you want to neaten that up, you can actually just backspace over there, and there it is. So we have the role, user, content. Well, we actually want to put in what is in our text box. So I'm going to take out this part in the middle of these quotation marks. And in between that, I'm going to put input, ask your questions, value, the same as what we did over there. So that is now asking what we've asked ChatGPT. It saved our question. Now we get into the actual API action, and you'll find that under plugins because the API connector is effectively a plugin. And you can see our API call over here, OpenAI chat completions. Here is the dummy data that we used to connect the API earlier on. And over here, we have the role as user, which is correct. Content, no, we want to change that. We want to tell ChatGPT that what is inside this input is what we want to be asking it. So that is us asking that question. In fact, no, we want to create a whole history, don't we? So I'm going to get rid of this. And instead, we're going to search for the whole history of chats because we want to create the string of the history of the conversation. So we created one over here in step 1, but I want to search for all of them. So let's do a search for chat. And it's going to be searching for all the chats since we're just using it in this case, but you could filter it if you wanted to at a later stage. So it's going to search for all chats, and it's going to search for each chat's JSON, because we want to string together this list of JSONs, all these items here in the curly brackets. And you'll see that they're all separated by a comma, which is the format for JSON. So we need to do that as well. So I'm going to click on here, and it'll give me the option of more. And we're going to join with a comma. And you do have to add a space in. That's something you'll just learn along the way. It's one of those things, but you will need to create a space after that comma to join them effectively and for them to be passed successfully. So that is what we're going to do. We're searching for all the chats. It's going to create this whole string of JSON items in the array separated by this comma. After that, we are going to now look at our response. And we are now going to be creating a chat on behalf of the... Here's another option you can do. Instead of clicking one at a time, you can actually just say add all fields, and we'll populate this whole list of options over here. So GPT role is going to be the assistant because we know the assistant is the one that responds. And if I have a look here, I'm going to use this example, the assistants. I could just type it in, but that is that. So JSON, we're going to type that, paste it in. I'll bring that back to get rid of the click. And it's the role assistant, and the content is actually going to be what the answer was. And this is where we are going to edit this part. So I'm going to clear that for now, and I'm going to stop this video here, and we'll cover the rest in the next one.